Hey, what's up? It's Cute What If this side. Today we will be seeing, what if Deku become Ranger? Now before we move ahead with the fic, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for future what ifs like this. Within a deep, vast virtue of space, separated yet spanning throughout any and every known universe, was a multiverse energy field filled and constructed by various different colors, with the dominant colors being red, blue, yellow, black, and pink, with other colors such as green, white, gold, silver, purple, and finally orange lingering around this energy field. And within this energy field were images of different people, battling different enemies and armies throughout space and time. This is the multiversal energy field known as the Morphin grid. It is the main and only power source for beings who were chosen to wield the grid energy to morph into Power Rangers, people who gain extraordinary abilities and superhuman feats, regardless of race, species, and gender. These beings were chosen by the grid and bestowed them the powers and abilities of various factors such as dinosaurs, animals, and other abilities such as the ability in commending the elements and other assortments of unique abilities. No one truly knows what the Morphin grid really is or where it originally came from. Some say it's been around since the multiversal Big Bang. Others say it was created by unknown beings, but truly, little is unknown about this strange bioenergy phenomenon. All except one group of beings that study the Morphin grid as it is their purpose in life. These beings are known as the Morphin Masters. They've devoted themselves to studying the Morphin grid's singular nature, its existence across all universes as a multiversal constant. No one really knows how and when their race was created, but it's been speculated that they've existed since the birth of the universe. They were responsible in creating various items that were used in gaining previous teams of Rangers' powers by creating artifacts such as gems and stones filled with grid energy. No one knows how many of the Masters were originally, but now, only 6 are known to exist, representing several of the colors in the grid. Red, blue, yellow, green, pink, black, and gold as they were viewing a planet. One that was similar to the ones that inhabited and based various Ranger teams across the multiverse, Earth, but this Earth was different from all the rest. This world is filled and corrupted with chaos and evil. The Black Morphin Master comments with all the other Morphin Masters agreeing with it. They were viewing an Earth where the humans, and in a rare case, an animal, gained a mutation that allows them to wield extraordinary superhuman feat. They classified this mutation as a quirk, with 80% of the total population of Earth possessing this mutation. Indeed, if this world doesn't receive any assistance soon, it will die from the evil that resting and creating its newest vassal. The Blue Morphin Master says, "We must do something in stopping this evil." The Pink Morphin Master suggests, but the Black and Gold Morphin Master shake their heads in disagreement with their suggestion. "We cannot. For you know that we cannot interfere with any universe or that will cause disastrous results." The Black Morphin Master says, "Agreed. We can't intervene in a world simply because of a possible threat." The Gold Morphin Master says, "And do not forget, my siblings, that we caused Universe 39 to nearly perish due to our action and severing the universe's connection to the grid and allowing our fallen brother to nearly conquer the universe after he slay the first Rangers there." The Green Morphin Master says, remembering a universe where they severed its connection to the Morphin grid, which led to its near destruction if it wasn't for a group of Rangers that went and fought for its freedom and revival, but that's a tale for another day. Let us also not forget Lord Draken's action in destroying and reshaping the multiverse into his own image. The Yellow Morphin Master says, making the other Master remember the destruction and recreation of the universe all due to one evil variant of a legendary Ranger. But again, that is another tale of another time. The Red Morphin Master had been silently watching this Earth and its events that have led to tragic and horrible results: crime rise, racism, discrimination, mass death, violence, and corruption. And they were sickened by. They knew it would be a matter of time until this planet is ruled by someone like Lord Draken or destroying it. And sooner than later, that someone will lead destruction to the multiverse, and they cannot allow that to flourish. They cough and gain the rest of the Morphin Master's attention. "We will not intervene, directive, my brothers and sisters. We will simply guide them in the correct path by giving this planet what it truly needs." The Red Morphin Master speaks, forcing the other Masters to turn to them. "And what is that?" The Black Morphin Master asks, with the Red Master turning to them. "Their own Ranger." The Red Morphin Master says, causing the other Masters to gain a shocked expression that couldn't be seen due to their faces being concealed in masks. "A Ranger? Are you serious?" The Yellow Morphin Master asks, with Red Master nodding their head. "Yes, I am." The Red Master says as the Black Master floats to them and looks at them in the face. "Are you suggesting that we give them more of the grid's energy?" "I think not. Their mutation, or quirks as they like to classify them, is a negative result of residual unstable grid energy. It is still unclear how they've managed to survive this long without their planet imploding in itself or have caused a war due to the unstable nature of grid energy. They've only brought issue after issue upon themselves and are slowly creating a disaster that is just resting and waiting for the opportunity to strike." The Black Morphin Master says with doubt in their tone. knowing that giving more power to beings also leads to destruction and chaos. And the majority of the planet's inhabitants are simply not fit to be a ranger. Most of the people who are calling themselves heroes are not the thing the namesake suggests. The majority of the beings are using the name as a way to gain reputation, fame, wealth, and creating a false sense of safety and peace, as they all rely on one single pillar which is slowly decaying away. The Green Morphin Master speaks, having seen how the majority of the people on this earth were acting selfishly for themselves. Even if we would able to bestow a morpher onto one of the beings on the planet, the ever-present grid energy that lingers in their DNA would be added with the grid energy that is inserted into the being's cells, causing them to overload with energy and implode. So to simply put, none of the beings on this earth are fit nor worthy in becoming a Power Ranger. The Pink Morphin Master says, knowing just how dangerous too much of the grid energy is to a person's body. The Red Morphin Master knew what their fellow masters were saying and could see the dangers in giving a link to the grid to someone who'd likely used it of their ill intentions, and the risk of dying was high. Then, they remembered one other fact this earth possessed. Then what about a human without any grid energy? The Red Morphin Master asks, causing their fellow masters to look at them. What do you mean by that? The Yellow Morphin Master asks as they and the rest wait for the Red Master to answer, while the Gold Master, who had been silently viewing this earth for more information, and its history and current events. As you've spoken, sister, any human on this earth with any grid energy within them is unfit to be a ranger due to the risk of their lives. But what of a human that doesn't have any grid energy within them? To begin with, they would be the perfect candidate. This method is known as this is the most common way for a human, alien, android in gaining grid energy and becoming a Power Ranger. We just simply search for a human that is powerless from birth and bestow them a morpher of our creation of them to use. The Red Morphin Master says as the others look at each other and think about what the Red Master had said. It was the most common way for beings across the multiverse to gain access to the grid with the use of a morpher. That would be an excellent way in choosing the next ranger. The Black Morphin Master reluctantly says as the others agree on this method. However, the Gold Morphin Master clears their throat, causing the rest to turn to them. I do not think that would be an easy task, brother. The Gold Master says as the rest of the masters look at them, confusion filling their minds. Why is that? The Red Morphin Master asks, with the Gold Morpher Master just waving their staff and images of people mistreating normal-looking humans as the attackers had expressions of anger, hatred, and disgust as the Morphin Masters watch these images play out. According to the planet's statics regarding those with quirks, with the total population possessing that mutation being 80%, there were those who don't have the mutation of their own, the remaining 20% of the population to be exact. They were classified as the quirkless, and are treated as scum or defective humans, with most killing themselves to end the suffering, while those who do live are treated as second-class citizens and don't make it far in the world dominated by superhumans, with the majority of them getting disowned by their families. The other reason is them committing suicide just before the age of 14 or go into seclusion, away from society. The Guild Master says, with the images continuing to play out to the other Morphin Masters as they watch in disbelief and horror from these heinous acts to others. By the grid, the Pink Morphin Master utters, disturbed by these acts. How could they do this to their fellow human? The Green Morphin Master asks, feeling, this is the sort of heinous crimes Rita Repulsa and Venjix would commit. The Blue Morphin Master says, they think they're the superior beings on Earth thanks to a side effect that was never meant to be there in the first place. Such arrogance. The Black Morphin Master says as they clutch their fists in anger at what was being viewed. The Gold Morphin Master waves their staff again and the images fade away. They then turn to the Red Master and look at them in the eyes. Brother, I believe that sooner or later, forces from the other dimensions and universe within the Morphin grid will sense this planet and try to conquer it for the purpose of harvesting the grid energy from the people and using them as a source of power. The Gold Master says, with the Red Master catching what they were implying, which they would use in attempting to conquer the other Ranger worlds. The Red says, with the Gold Master nodding, we need to prevent this. The Pink Morphin Master says, seeing that this will lead to chaos and destruction to the grid if this is left unseen. Agreed. We need to act quickly. The Blue Morphin Master says, with the other masters agreeing, but the Black Morphin Master was still uncertain about this course of action. But we still need to decide if this world truly needs a ranger of their own. Who are we to choose? The Black Master asks as the Morphin Masters knew what he was saying. They were not allowed to directly interfere in worldly affairs unless the threat was too big and leaving unchecked. May I be of assistance? A voice speaks and the Morphin Masters search for the source of the voice. Moments pass and a light floats towards them. Once the light floats in front of them and starts to force a contrast of a figure that had blue skin, was bald, and wore a blue bodysuit with gold trimmings on the center of the suit with a white cloth wore on its right shoulder. This figure was one the Morphin Master easily recognized. Zordon. The Red Morphin Master says, knowing who this figure was as the contrast of Zordon bowing his head to the Master. Greetings, Morphin Masters. It is an honor in meeting you again. I overheard your dilemma and felt that I could provide a solution to this issue you're facing. Zordon says as the Morphin Masters stare at him. And what is this solution of yours, Zordon? The gold Morphin master asks. The light turns to the multicolored energy grid behind him with the contrast staring at this space. I have seen and mentored teams of rangers before my life ended, and to this very day, I continue watching these new teams through the grid. And with most of these teams, have a mentor with them, someone there to help, train and provide support to them. Myself included in that fact with my rangers. I have a proposal for you, Zordon says, turning back to the masters. What is your proposal, Zordon? The Black Morphin master asks. My proposal is that we select previous rangers to be the mentors for this Earth's ranger and let them train this ranger in learning and mastering their abilities, help this chosen individual to truly understand what it is to be a ranger. We call in rangers with the most experience in terms of the grid, battle, and know what it is to be a ranger, Zordon says with the Morphin masters turning to each other, most with an aura of uncertainty around them as one of them turns back to Zordon. Selecting the previous rangers. Zordon, that method is unheard of. The Black Morphin master says. Is it really? I do not see what is the issue here. Various rangers have traveled through the multiverse in multiply events that required assistance from other rangers. Take the Forever Red incident where 9 various versions of the Red Ranger from different teams came together to defeat the enemy, or take Once a Ranger, an event that led the Overdrive Rangers to team up with the Mystic Green Ranger, the Blue Ninja Storm Ranger, the Yellow Dino Thunder Ranger, the Red SPD Ranger and the second Black Mighty Morphin Ranger. Or more recently with the 3 newest teams of rangers. The point I am trying to cross with you masters is that all the various ranger teams throughout space and time have interacted with one another. They've done this as a way of keeping a connection to themselves. So, will you please allow this new ranger the chance to truly learn what is right, and what it means to be a ranger? Zordon asks. The Morphin masters turn to themselves and discuss whether or not in letting previous rangers train the next one. While some thought the proposal was an idea that could provide excellent results if choosing the prepared candidates for the task, others were uncertain about the proposal as it could lead to disastrous after effects on the grid, which in turn would lead to disasters in the other ranger worlds. After some time passed, the Morphin masters finished discussing and turned back to Zordon and deliver him their answer. Alright Zordon, we, the Morphin masters, will allow your proposal for yours to flourish. The gold Morphin master says, causing Zordon to smile and bow down to them. I thank you masters for allowing me this opportunity. I should not disappoint you all, Zordon says. Now then, who are your candidates, Zordon? The Red Morphin master asks with Zordon rising back up. I have 3 candidates in mind. May I please use the grid in bringing them here in negotiations? Zordon asks with the masters nodding to him. You may. The Red Morphin mazer stays with Zordon nodding. His eyes glow for a brief moment as 3 beams of light appear in front of them. 2 were pink and the other one was a mix of red, green, black, and white. Soon though, the glow in Zordon's eye stops and the beams fade away, being replaced by 3 newcomers. What the hell? Where am I? A middle-aged yet fit man asks, looking around as he was dazed and confused. He wore a black hoodie, under a forest green coat, demi jeans, and white trainer shoes. He had a red and silver wristwatch on as well. Tommy. The man, now called Tommy, turns his head to the left, where someone called him. He sees a blonde-haired woman, wearing a light pink blouse, demi jeans, and brown boots. Cat, where are we? What's going on? Tommy asks as the blonde woman, now known to be Cat, just looks around, also confused about what is happening as he goes over to her and hugs her while also checking if she was okay. I have no idea. 1 minute, I was talking to JJ over his communicator and then next I remember is being engulfed by a beam of bright light. And I'm here. Wherever we are. Cat says, doing the same thing to Tommy, checking if he was alright. As soon as they see that they were fine and okay, someone else speaks. Well, isn't this just swell? Seeing you again, Tommy, after all his time. The 2 turn to the source of the person who had just spoken and sees a brunette woman whose hair was cut in a low fade cut. She had 6 piercings on each of her ears, 3 on the helixes of her ears. She wore a black short-sleeved brown coat with a pink t-shirt under the coat with a white and black handkerchief tied around her neck. Black wrapping tape acted as fingerless gloves which reached up to her elbows, and black cargo pants with a holster wrapped around her left thigh with black heavy-duty boots on. Tommy and Kat looked at the woman and saw that she looked familiar to them but felt something was off. Kimberly, is that you? Tommy asks as the brunette, now known to be Kimberly, just smirks and chuckles a bit. Actually, I just go by Kim now. And yeah, it's me, well, not your Kimberly, but the one who you've met before, you, Lord Draken. Kimberly, or rather Kim, says as Kat looked confused about what Kim had said, but Tommy had a look of disbelief as his eyes went wide as he knew what she was talking about. Kim, is that really you? Tommy asks as Kim just smiles and nods. Yup, it's me. Kim says. Tommy goes over to Kim and hugs her deeply. Hey Kim, long time no see. Tommy says, hugging Kim as she returns it. It's so good to see you again after all these years. Tommy says, it's good to see a familiar face again after so long. Well, one that isn't evil and trying to kill me, but you get what I'm saying, Kim says as Tommy laughs. She lets go of him and sees Kat looking at them. Kim goes over to Kat and starts looking at her as she looks at her and remembers the one back in her world. So you're the one I would have chosen to be the mighty Morphin Pink Ranger if things in my world didn't go to shit. I feel like the me in your world made the right choice in you. I can feel it. It's nice to meet you, Kim says as she holds her hand out to Kat. Kat sees this and smiles and takes her hand. And it's nice to finally meet you as well. My husband has spoken about you a few times, Kat says as Kim smirks and turns to Tommy. Oh really? What has he told you about? Kim asks as Tommy just chuckles. Hey, come on. What was I supposed to do? Lie to my wife? Besides, all I told her was when we helped in defeating Lord Draken. I guess not, Kim says in understanding what he means. Before either of them could say anything else, someone speaks. It would seem that our fates have intertwined once more. The three adults turn to where the voice was located and their eyes widen as they see someone they thought they would never see again. ZZZ Zordon, Catherine says, slowly finding her voice as Zordon chuckles and gently smiles at them. Hello Tommy, Kimberly and Catherine. It is good to see you three again, my dear Rangers. Zordon says. Zordon. The three adults yell as they head over to the contract and hug him, overjoyed in seeing their old mentor again. It is so good to see you again. Catherine says, happy on seeing her old mentor again. And with a body too. Tommy yells, in awe at seeing his mentor having his physical body again. It's really good to see you again, Zordon. Kim says while wiping some tears from her eyes. She was getting emotional on remembering how he and her dear. It is lovely in seeing you three again. While one of you isn't exactly the same Kimberly back in the world I lived in, but still, it is wonderful to see you once more, Zordon says as the adults continue to hug him. After a few moments pass, they let go of him and Kim now asks the one question that's been on their minds since arriving. Where are we? Kim asks. We are within the Morphin grid, the source of all Rangers' powers. Zordon answers, shocking the three as they were in the thing that gave them their abilities. Why are we here? Tommy asks, feeling serious about what was happening. It is because you've been chosen to train a new Ranger. The three turn around and see the seven masters who'd been silently observing them. Who are you all? Catherine asks. We are the Morphin Masters, beings who reside within the grid itself and watch over the multiverse of Rangers. The Red Morphin Master says, causing the three humans to have a near heart attack on the reveal. What? Kat utters, stunned by what she just learned. No way. Kim also utters, equally stunned. Incredible. Tommy says, in awe as he stares at the large beings in front of him. You three were brought here to announce to you that you will train and care for the newest Ranger. The Yellow Morphin Master says. Why? Kim asks. Because due to the destruction and reborn of the multiverse by the actions of Tommy Oliver, or Lord Draken as he called himself, caused an infatuation surge of unstable grid energy to spread out into the unknown depths of space and time until it had made its way onto a planet similar yet slightly advanced to your Earth's. The unstable grid energy caused the majority of the inhabitants on the planet to gain a mutation that grants them abilities that are on par with the Rangers. The Blue Morphin Master says as the three were confused about this. But, if the inhabitants of this Earth have abilities of that of Rangers, what is the issue in this? Kat asks. The issue here, Mrs. Oliver, is that the inhabitants of this Earth are on the brink of war. The planet is divided by groups of four. 1. The heroes, the second, the villains, and 2 lesser yet equally dangerous factions. If this planet is left unchecked and without a Ranger of their own, it will be destroyed, either by their own hands or by sources outside of their understanding. The Green Morphin Master says. So, you want us to train someone from that Earth? No offense to you all, but I really don't think I'm the right person for the job. Kim says, sure, she led a team of Rangers before, but to train someone new was something else. And I don't think we're the right ones too, we're retired. I just handed over my morpher to my son for safekeeping. Tommy says, Catherine had long given up her Ranger powers and morpher years ago, and Tommy just recently retired from being a Ranger, since his body couldn't handle the strain of being one and his back was just barely holding on together with the use of a permanent cybernetic back brace. Regardless of what you may think, you three were handpicked by me as I see that you are the right candidates in training this new Ranger. You three have the most experience in terms of combat, leadership, and the complete history of Rangers. 2 of you have been on multiple teams while 1 of you has battled against various Ranger teams across the multiverse, and has come out on top. You three are the worthy candidates in training this new Ranger. The Black Morphin Master says as Kim glances at them with her arms crossed. Okay, even if we are the right ones to train this new Ranger, why could we? Didn't you say earlier that the people on that Earth have powers of their own? Can't they just use their powers to fix whatever problem that's coming? Kim asks as Zordon steps forward. Because Kimberly, thanks to the unstable grid energy in their cellular make, it would be suicide for anyone within the 80% of the people who have the unstable energy in their DNA already. Zordon says, causing Kat to get curious at a small detail. Wait, you said 80% of the population. What about the other 20%? Kat asks. Tommy and Kim also want to know what was wrong with the rest of the population. Zordon and the Morphin Masters glance at one another, deciding if whether or not to tell the 3 humans about the situation of the world or show. After a brief moment, the Gold Morphin Master turns back to them. It would be best if we were to show you instead. The Gold Morphin Master says as they wave their staff, and images of the planet's history in question begin to play out to the 3 adults. They watched as the quirkless and those that were deemed weak or villainous as their lives were the horrifying definition of abuse and content within human acts, seeing most of them kill themselves just to escape the pain while others just struggled to survive. They see how the heroes were now lazy and too reliant on one man as the society's pillar of peace and support, and they knew that was not going to last long and it'll cause panic on them if this continues. After a while, the images fade away with the masters and Zordon watching the adults as they were struggling to compare and what they've just witnessed. My god, all those innocents. How could these people be so ruthless to one of their own? Kat asks, trying to hold back her disgust at how vicious and ruthless humans on the earth were. Even when you're gone, you still manage to cause chaos and death onto others by your own sick desires. Kim thought as she clenches her fists in anger at her former teammate and love interest before his descent into darkness and madness. Damn it, I should have gotten through with him sooner and this wouldn't have happened. Tommy thought, feeling guilt and upset with himself for not being able in saving Lord Draken from his for power. As you all can see, if something isn't done, this world will soon perish, along with its inhabitants. Now, in knowing this, we ask you all once more, will you accept our offer in training and teach this newest ranger? The Red Morphin Master asks. The three look at one another as if having a mental conversation with each other on if they should do this. Yes, two of them were retired now and one was still trying to fix the damage done on her Earth, but they saw that this world was on the brink of war and death if things go on as they are. With nods, the adults turn back to the masters, and Zordon and Tommy speak. We'll do it. Tommy says with Kat and Kim nodding, showing that they're in agreement. Thank you for doing this task. The Red Morphin Master says. So, how are you going to pick someone who's worthy of being a ranger? Kim asks. Before any of the Morphin Masters could speak, the energy around them started to act up as different images of people were appearing before them. What's happening? Kat asks, worried if something wrong was happening. The Morphin Masters look at the grid as it continues to display the different images of people, and were in disbelief at what it was doing. I don't believe this. The Black Morphin Master utters. What is happening, Masters? Zordon asks. The grid it is. Selecting an individual from this Earth as the newest ranger. The Red Morphin Master says, shocking the others. What? Kim says, in disbelief of what was developing. Has something like this ever happened before? Tommy asks. This is the first time the grid has acted on its own accord. The Pink Morphin Master says. The images start to slow down on displaying the images until the grid stops on one image of a human. Who is he? Kim asks as she, Kat, Tommy, Zordon, and the Morphin Masters see an image of it as a short, skinny teenage boy. He had a round face which was framed by a short mess of fluffy dark green hair which sticks up at odd angles around his head, casting noticeably dark shadows onto itself. His eyes were large and somewhat circular, and his irises were the same green color as his hair, which gave him an innocent, energized appearance. He had a set of 4 symmetrical freckles in diamond formations, one on each cheek. One of the Morphin Masters goes over to the image and starts to view this human's history. His name is Izuku Midoriya. He is a youngling of this Earth, a teenager in your human cycle, and he was born without the mutation, classifying him as quirkless. In his early life, his life was that of any child there, filled with love and happiness. But after going to the doctor and learning his status, things in and around his life deistically changed and not for the better. He was ridiculed, beaten, and neglected by those around him. His best friend turned into his worst tormentor. The only person he truly trusts is his mother. While she is loving and caring towards him, he felt betrayed by her belief in thinking if the situation was different on the day he was classified as quirkless. Since then, he's kept a strong will in chasing his goal of becoming a hero, but over time, that will had started to decay, with each and every blow dealt to his body and mind. For years he was ridiculed, tormented, and bullied by his former peers, including his former childhood best friend. His life is at a crossroad right now, in which even path he takes will define his world's fate forever. The Red Morphin Master finishing reading the chosen person's life as the humans and Zordon were saddened and upset with how Izuku led his life up until now. Can you show us where is he now? Kat asks as the Morphin Master nods, wanting to see Izuku. I can. The Morphin Master says as he waves his staff and the grid starts to display live images of Izuku, who was on top of a skyscraper, looking depressed. What's he doing on top of that roof? Tommy asks. Kim looks at the image and sees Izuku's expression, and remembers what happens to quirkless people. No don't tell me he's going to jump. Kim utters, which Tommy and Kat hear as their eyes widen. What? Is he really going to jump? Kat yells, in disbelief and in horror at seeing a young child about to attempt in killing himself. I think this is the crossroad the Master was speaking of. If he jumps off, then this planet is doomed. Zordon solemnly says as he lowers his head, wishing and praying that the child didn't kill himself. Kim turns to Kat and Tommy. We have to stop him before he jumps. Kim says to the two as they nod. They turn back to the Master and Zordon takes us to him so we can stop him from hurting himself. Tommy says as the mysterious Masters nod. Ever well. We will send you to the Chosen One's world and stop him from his attempt suicide. The Gold Morphin Master says as a portal appears below the 3 humans. And take this. The Red Morphin Master says as light makes its way to Tommy. He grabs the light and holds it in front of him, to see it was a bracelet. What is this? Tommy asks, turning to the masters. It is his own master morpher. It is linked to all variants of morphers used by the Rangers, which will allow him to morph into any Ranger of his choosing, but we've set it to a set of number to prevent an overload of grid energy. Once you've felt that he's completed his training, only then, you may hand it to him. And once you've arrived, you will be with your own morphers as well, to help you in training the boy and help defend the humans if things were to turn dangerous. And the morphers will resort your bodies back to a suitable age when you morph. The Gold Morphin Master says as the trio nod. Just before they head into the portal, they turn back to the Masters and Zordon. Thank you. It was a pleasure and an honor in meeting you all. Tommy says. The honor is all ours, Tommy Oliver, Catherine Oliver and Kimberly Hart. You helped and saved the grid countless times. You have our eternal gratitude. The Gold Morphin Master says with his fellow masters nodding in agreement. Goodbye, Zordon, it was nice to see you again. Kim says as Zordon just gently smiles. And it was nice to see you all again. Now go, save the boy and bring forth a new wave of Power Rangers. Zordon says as the adults fall into the portal, heading to Izuku's world to stop him. Back in the void of the Morphin grid, the Morphin Master turned to Zordon. Do you believe that they will succeed? The Red Morphin Master asks the contrast as it looked. Uncertain about answering the question. I do not know. Only time will tell and all we can do is observe. And hope things will go well. Zordon says as he returns back into his light form and floats away, leaving the masters to what they were previously doing. True, so true. For that is our goal in existence, protect the grid and study its nature. The Morphin Masters say in unison as they remain in the grid, observing all the worlds connected to it as a new connection was being established to Izuku's world, where the story of the Morphin hero was about to start. Life sucks. It would consistently kick you in the ass at any moment, destroy any small strand of peace you have, and you'd consistently think, is it even worth living? And if you have green, black hair, freckles, a fanboy of heroes, and have the name Izuku Midoriya, then life sucked even worse. His life was not the greatest, far from it. It was the absolute worst, probably one of the worst on the planet. Sure, it wasn't always like this really. When he was born, his life was pretty decent, he had loving parents, and a good friend, even though that friend had a and sometimes violent behavior. But still, life was good for him. Up until he turned the age of 4. That was when things took a massive nosedive. His good and only friend at the time turned his back on him. His father went out of milk and a pack of smokes and apparently went to the States to do that and never returned. And everyone around him harassed, mentally and sometimes abused him on the daily basis. Why? Well, he wasn't born with something that apparently everyone gawks over nowadays. A quirk. Yep, a quirk. It's a genetic mutation that grants someone a power that could be anything. The ability to fly, shoot lasers out of their eyes, breathe underwater, superhuman strength, you get the jazz. There's pretty much 80% of the total population on Earth, and yeah, 80%. Not 100% because there were those out there, the 20% who were unfortunate enough to be born without any powers at all. They were just unpowered humans, or in this case, called quirkless. It was that one classification that can really change the options of the people around you as they treated you like trash, a defective human, a waste of air and space. And Izuku was that definition of that. For the last 10 years, his life was the definition of hell. Every day at school, he'd get beaten up by his classmates and the teachers won't do a thing about it except blame Izuku for causing the fight. He was treated as trash everywhere he went to, and people made fun of him at any given opportunity. From spider lilies on his desk to pranks, to beatings. And finally to getting his tests rigged and tampered with, and finally getting the constant belittlement from everyone around him due to his status. The only real saving grace here was his mother, God bless her soul, as she was the only light in his world of darkness. She cares deeply for him as she's the only good person in his life, the person who looked after him and looked out for him on a constant basis. She was all he had left. But he does still feel hurt by her from time to time after he was diagnosed as quirkless, and he asked her if he could still be a hero while watching some videos on the computer. Instead of answering him, she just went to him and hugged him tightly, cried with him while saying, "I'm sorry, Izuku. I wish that things were different." Those weren't the words he wanted to hear from her, but he accepted them and just went through his life for the next 10 years, miserable and lonely, holding on to the slim hope that things will be fine sooner than later. But today finally break him. Today started out the same old. Him waking up, greets his mom, eats the breakfast she made, him going to school on the same route every day, a route that was known to have a large number of pro-heroes patrolling on the route. A large villain attacks and sees the rookie sensation Kamui Woods in action up until the battle was rudely and unexpectedly stopped by the newest heroine, Mount Lady, as she debuted. He arrived at school a little late and got roughly scolded for this by his teacher. Once he had entered the classroom, everyone gave him cold stares, which he was used to, and once he reached his desk, he was new graffiti writing on it, death notes, spider lilies, and other things that his classmates placed on it that indicated that he should die. He sighed and cleaned off the notes and lilies, but not the graffiti, as it'll be back on the desk the next day. His teacher entered the class and said that since it was their last year in JR High, they had to start thinking about their future careers, but he knew that they wanted to be pro-heroes. Much to the excitement of the class, but one student proclaimed that he'll be the only one in the entire school that'll be a real hero while the rest could only get as sidekicks. This student was Katsuki Bakugo, the top honor student of Izuku's school and his ex-childhood friend. Over the years, Bakugo had changed from a kind, arrogant kid to a rude, still arrogant, and egotistical individual. Due to him getting praised for his quirk, explosion, and was told he'd be a great hero, leading him to get over in his head and see himself as the best of the best, and the future #1 hero in the world. Everyone was pissed at his insult, but that changed to awestruck as the teacher revealed that Bakugo was aiming for UA High School, the prestigious high school that bred the top heroes in the last few generations, and Bakugo proclaimed that he'll ace the entrance exam into the hero course. The teacher then revealed that Izuku was applying for the hero course in UA as well. This of course caused the class to erupt in laughter as they knew he'll never make it into the course, let alone the school. But Izuku tried to ensure that he could if he tried really hard. But apparently, this angered Bakugo as he blew up his desk and told him why would he go to a school like UA since he was quirkless, and that it insulted him that Izuku would for the hero course. Eventually, the teacher broke the fight up while punishing Izuku for starting it, even though he didn't. Later that day, Bakugo and his goons confronted Izuku about him and applying to UA. He suggested that he should just drop his application now and give up since he wants to be the only student in their school's history. While doing so, he took Izuku's notebook, one where he had made notes about different quirks and heroes he's seen in the last few weeks, and processed in blowing it up with his quirk, severely burning it and then tossing it out of the window. Just before leaving, Bakugo decided to give Izuku one last piece of advice, one that was the start of Izuku losing hope in life and in his dream. If you really want to have a quirk, there is a way. Just take a swan dive off the school roof and pray you'll get a quirk in the next life. Izuku got angry by those words, so much that he was about to attack Bakugo, but the blonde saw that and used his quirk on Izuku, causing the boy to stop and go back to his meek, shy self. Once the blonde and his goons had left, Izuku went outside to find his notebook, only to find it in the middle of the school's fish pond. Being eaten by the fish in it, he started to rant about Bakugo and his crude words and asked what would happen if he did do it. On his way back home, Izuku decided to take a shortcut under a bridge, and there, he was attacked by an escaping villain that used to use his body as a hiding spot. He started to suffocate by this villain and was close to passing out due to the lack of air when he was rescued by his role model, the #1 hero in Japan, and in the US, All Might. All Might came and stuck the villain with a mighty punch that blew the villain off from Izuku, but thanks to the force of the blow, and the lack of air, caused Izuku to pass out. After a while, he reawakens and saw All Might was still there, which made him freak out and go into fanboy mode since the #1 hero was there with him and had saved him. Once All Might had gathered the villain and Izuku thanked him, he took off into the sky, but Izuku grabbed onto his leg at the last second and became a stowaway along the ride. All Might was then forced to land on a roof of a tall building and scolded the boy for his recklessness. But Izuku told him he had a serious question to ask him, but All Might didn't listen and was about to leave, leaving Izuku no other choice but shout out his question. Can someone be a hero, even if they're quirkless? That made All Might stop in his tracks as Izuku processed and asking more of his question to him, not seeing that something was happening to All Might until he finished asking his question, only to see when he looked up to see a very thin, sickly-looking man instead of All Might. This, of course, did freak Izuku out on why was this guy here not All Might. He freaked out, even more, when this man claimed to be All Might, but Izuku could see that he was telling the truth. Once he calmed down, the man explained why was he like this now that he got into a battle with someone fierce a few years back, and while he won, the fight cost him his lung and half of his respiratory system, resulting in him not having a stomach. Izuku did theorize that the only big fight that All Might had gotten into was with Toxic Chainsaw, which caused the man to laugh and say that that guy couldn't have done this to him. No. It was someone more dangerous. Izuku asked him again the question and held out all the remaining hope he had left, waiting to hear the response from his hero, but with a heavy heart, All Might told him this. No, I don't think that a quirkless person shouldn't be a hero. It's impossible. They'll just be in the way and get killed. Look, it's okay to dream, but just make sure that your dreams are realistic. You can still be a hero the normal way, become a police officer, a doctor, or a social worker even. But a hero, that can never happen. And with those words, Izuku's hope and world finally crumbled. His hero, his own hero, told him to get real and just give up on his dream. All Might then process into leaving the roof, but not before he told Izuku to never tell anyone but his condition or else there could be trouble. He didn't stay just to see how devastated the boy really was as everything that was piling up onto him over the years finally dropped onto him. And now, he had nothing else to live for. And that's where we find him now, still on the rooftop, but was close to the edge of it. Izuku was staring down to the streets below, seeing everyone going about in their lives, all happy, all filled with joy in their lives. All free expect him. He had been cursed since the age of 4 with bad luck, and now, he's had enough. Give up, kid, it's not going to happen. What's the point now? Izuku thought, still looking down to the streets. You, a quirkless freak, be a hero. Get real. I have nothing left to live for. Izuku thought. He looks at the sky and sees the birds fly away. What a loser. I just can't go on anymore. Izuku thought. He takes off his school bag and places it on the floor while he bends down and processed in taking off his sneakers. I'm sorry, Izuku. I wish that things were different. Sorry, Mom. I hope you understand that I tried. Really I did but this world it's too much for me to live in anymore hope you find happiness in your life again. Izuku thought. He had finished untying his shoes and takes them off and nearly places them next to his back. He stands back up and walks over to the ledge of the building's roof. No, I don't think that a curriculous person shouldn't be a hero. It's impossible. They'll just be in the way and get killed. All Might's right. I'd be in the way for a real hero. Izuku thought. He stood onto the ledge of the building as the wind gently blew by. If you really want to have a quirk, there is a way. Just take a swan dive off the school roof and pray you'll get a quirk in the next life. Guess I'll take your advice, Kaken. Maybe it's for the best. Izuku thought. He looks at the sky for what could be his final time and closed his eyes. He opens out his arms and processes taking in one long breath. He mentally prepares himself for what was about to happen. Goodbye, cruel world. Hope things are better in the next life. Izuku thought one final thought as he starts to lean his body forward, and was about to leap off the roof when, don't do it. 3 voices shout behind Izuku just as he leans forward and started to fall, but before his feet felt the ledge, a bunch of hands grabbed him on his back and pull him back, away from the ledge and back onto the roof. Izuku was confused. Why was he still alive? He was being held down by a set of strong arms. What the hell are you thinking, kid? Izuku looked to his right and saw a man of middle age, most like in his mid-30 seconds to earlier 40 seconds, with short brown hair and facial hair. He wore a black hoodie under a forest green coat, demi jeans, and white trainer shoes. He had a red and silver wristwatch on as well. He had something else attached to the side of his belt. Who is this man? Izuku thought, seeing this strange man for the first time. He's right. Why would you try and do such a thing to yourself? Another voice spoke in an Australian accent. It isn't worth it, kid. Trust me, I've seen it happen before. One last voice spoke. Izuku turns to his left and saw 2 women, both holding him down as well. Both looked to be the same age as the man. One of them was a blonde-haired woman, wearing a light pink blouse, demi jeans, and brown boots. She had a sliver band on her left wrist with a pink gem in the band. The other woman was a brunette whose hair was cut in a low fade cut. She had 6 piercings on each of her ears, 3 on the helixes of her ears. She wore a black short-sleeve black leather jacket with a pink t-shirt under the jacket with a black handkerchief tied around her neck. Black wrapping tape acted as fingerless gloves which reached up to her elbows, and black cargo pants with a holster wrapped around her left thigh with black heavy-duty boots on. She also had something attached to the side of her pants, just like the man. Who are these people? Izuku thought, seeing those unfamiliar people before. Why did save me? Izuku whispers, softly enough to be barely heard, but it was loud enough for the newcomers to hear. They look at him with concern and confusion. Huh, what do you mean? The man asks. Izuku turns to him and looked furious at him. Why did you save me? Why? Izuku shouts out loud. He starts to lose himself in his emotions and was thinking, why did these people save someone like him? Because this isn't the right thing to do. It isn't right at all. The blonde woman says, in a soft tone for that of a concerned mother. Yeah, kid, there are other ways to deal with this and this is not one of them. The brunette says, looking down at him with a soft, yet stern frown. But it's the only way to me so that I can't take any more pain. I want to die so I can be finally free from it. Izuku yells, starting to lose the last bit of resistance he had left. Kid, no one should die just because they can escape from pain. It's not worth killing yourself over. The man yells. Finally Izuku snaps as he starts struggling in an attempt to break free from their hold and go off the ledge again. The trio adds force into the hole to prevent Izuku from escaping from them. But it is. I can't take living in this world any longer. I want to leave. I want to be free from it. I want to die so I'll finally be happy. Izuku shouts as he was doing everything in his power to try and get out of the hold he was in. The 3 adults look at him in a stunned state but didn't let go of him. My God, this kid really does want to die. The man thought, frowning as he was in shock at just how determined Izuku was in killing himself, while the women were horrified at this. What has this world done to a soul like this? The blonde thought, placing her hands on her mouth. This kid's finally lost it. Just how long have you been holding this in you? The brunette thought, gritting her teeth in anger as she and the man continued to hold Izuku down while he continued to struggle against them. After a few minutes pass, Izuku's struggle started to lose its energy until Izuku just stopped trying to escape and was just trying to pry their hands off as tears were falling from his eyes. I want to die. I just don't want pain anymore. Izuku mumbles out. He was broken, emotionally and physically. The man and 2 women saw and were now very concerned about the boy. What about your mother? What would she think about this? The man asks. Izuku doesn't stop trying to pry their hands off him, as he turns to look at the man dead in the eyes as his eyes dull with no light in them. She'll understand. She has too, Izuku says. The blonde woman frowns and looks at him. I don't think she would ever understand. A mother would never understand. Why would her kid choose suicide over talking about it? I am a mother myself and I would be devastated if I learned my kid killed themselves. It would make me feel like I've just lost my world. Would you want that for your mother? The blonde woman asks. Izuku's broken mind couldn't help but think about his mother and think about her reaction if he did kill himself. She would be heartbroken and destroyed by it. They say that every single one of your actions has consequences, and in killing yourself would have a lot of consequences for your whole world. Big and bad ones at that. The brunette says. You don't understand ... and no one will miss me ... and no one bit. Izuku says, knowing that almost everyone won't miss him at all if he died now. Do we? We know about you and your whole life. Izuku Midoriya. The man says, shocking Izuku as his eyes widen upon hearing him say his name. Only child of Izuku Midoriya and a father who abandoned you as you diagnosed. Quirkless since the age of 4 and has been belittled and ridiculed your whole life. Everyone turned their back on you as soon as they found out, including the one person who you thought was your friend. For years you had onto a single hope that one day, you could be a hero that saves everyone. Just like your hero. The man says. Izuku finally stops moving, showing that he was listening to them. That gave them hope that they were getting to him. They let go of him, hoping that he won't still try to run for the ledge, but to their relief, he stayed put. He looks up to them and looks at them in their eyes as he only had one question in his mind. Why? Why are you helping me? When it's not ever your business. Or that you really know me. Izuku says, general curious why would these people be here for him and stop him from killing himself. The blonde just looks at him and places her hand on his head, making him look at her as she gives him a gentle smile. Because it's the right thing to do. We couldn't let someone so young die this way. Not when he still has a life to live. The blonde says with the brunette nodding along. Yeah, we've seen and lived pretty complicated lives and we've seen the horrors of it. We've been beaten down to the ground loads of times. But we still got up and fought for those in need. And you aren't different from them. You needed help and we had to come and help you. The brunette says. The man nodded along with her words. Yes, we're here for you. And we're here to help you. The man says. Izuku looks at them and saw that they were serious and sincere with their words. He couldn't help but believe them a bit. He frowns and looks down, remembering the words All Might told him. The trio saw this and got concerned. What's wrong? The man asks. Izuku looks up to them again and looks depressed. You said I want to be like my hero, All Might. I met him earlier, not too long ago actually. I asked him if I could be a hero even if I was quirkless. He said that I should just give up and get a more realistic dream. That a quirkless hero would only get in the way ... He left me here. And never once turned back. Izuku says. The trio frowned and looked at each other. And it made some sense why he was up here and why was he so broken. To hear something like that from your lifelong hero. It'd break anyone's heart if the same happened to them. The blonde just pulls Izuku in for a hug while the man patted him on his back to soothe the boy. I'm so sorry that had to happen to you. Really, it must have hurt to hear that. The blonde says. Izuku just returned the hug as tears began to fall once more. This time it wasn't tears of anger, but tears of sadness. The shock and broken state he was in had faded and now all that was left in him was sadness at the words of rejection by All Might. The brunette crouched down to them and places her hand on his shoulders. Guess it's true what they say. Don't try and meet your heroes, they'll just disappoint you. The brunette says. She shook her head as she mentally cursed All Might and his ways of letting a boy down and leaving him alone to what could have been his death. It would have been on him forever if they were too late. After some minutes pass by, Izuku finally calmed down. He breaks the hug from the blonde woman and wipes his eyes for any lingering tears. Thank you, all of you. I don't know how to repay you all. Izuku says. They just smile at him. It was nothing. We're just glad we could help a lost soul find his way back. The man says with both of the women nodding. Izuku had finally gotten his mind to focus as new questions began to pop into his mind. Who are you three? I've never seen any of you before. Izuku asks. They knew he'd eventually ask that question and were prepared to answer it. Well, that's understandable really, since we're not really from here. The man says. Then, are you from America? Because you do sound American. Izuku says as they nod. Well, we are Americans, except for my wife. She's from Australia. But ... we're really not from this world's US or Australia. The blonde says. Izuku looks at them with a raised eyebrow. Huh, what do you mean, not this world's US or Australia? Izuku asks. The brunette was trying to find the right words to not freak him out. Well, she was saying but is stopped when an explosion went off near them. What was that? The man asks. They get up and run to the ledge to see what was going on. They saw a large cloud of lingering smoke while a fire was breaking out not too far from the building they were standing on. What's going on over there? Izuku asks. No clue, we better check it out just in case. Come on kid, let's go see what's happening. The man says. Izuku puts his shoes back on and gathers his things and the four leave the roof and building and start heading toward where the explosion went off. On the way there, they started hearing multiple explosions go off but the explosions sounded smaller than the earlier ones and were going off at a random interval. Once the four reached the area of the scene, they saw a mass amount of people standing and watching as several buildings were burning away. What is happening that's drawing all these people here? The blonde woman asks. Izuku looks around and saw a bunch of pro-heroes in the front. It could be a villain attack. Izuku says, seeing that could be the only logical reason here. He looks on ahead to see just what villain was causing like this, and to his shock and horror, it was a sludge villain, busy wreaking havoc on the scene. It was the same villain that had tried to suffocate him. And no way, it's him, the guy from earlier. Izuku thought. He starts to shake in place, remembering what had happened to him earlier thanks to the villain. The brunette looks down and sees Izuku's current state. Izuku, what's wrong? The brunette asks. The other two look at Izuku and saw he was shaking in place. That's the guy who attacked earlier. How did he get away from All Might? He hid him in bottles that were in his on no. Izuku says before he stops as he realized what happened. He places his hands on his mouth as he realizes that he caused this to happen. What's wrong? Why are you shaking? I caused the bottles to fall out of All Might's pockets when I jumped onto his leg. This is all my fault. Izuku says, his shaking intensives. The blonde woman grabs him and pulls him into a gentle hug while rubbing his back, as a way to calm him down. Sheesh. It's okay. You didn't know this would happen. Don't blame yourself over it. The blonde woman says. Her rubbing and hug were working as Izuku was calming down. The crowd gathered. They were looking on, with some of them realizing a few things. Wait, isn't that the villain All Might was chasing earlier today? What? All Might was chasing this guy. Where is he? Is he okay? How did this villain get away from the #1 hero? That should be impossible, even with a quirk like his. The Mana and brunette look around, with the man spotting something or someone in the middle of the chaos. Looks like that slime got someone in it. The man says, seeing someone inside of the slime as its hostage. The brunette looks ahead and saw several heroes were there, but aside from just two, no one was doing a thing. And it also looks like the heroes here aren't doing a thing about it. Damn wannabes. The brunette growls, angry that these so-called heroes weren't doing a thing in saving the hostage nor defeating the villain who was using the hostage to start the fire around them. No way, the Morphin Masters wanted us here. If this is how heroes around across the globe, they won't stand a chance of a big threat like Lord Draken or Rita Repulsa. The man and brunette thought. Izuku had calmed down long enough to think, how was the hostage doing against the sludge villain? I wonder how long has that person been trapped in the sludge? When I got caught, it felt like an eternity, even if it was only just a few seconds. Izuku thought. He looks for the hostage to see just who they were, and to his utter shock and surprise, it was a very familiar face, one he knew well. It was a blonde boy, his age, in the same outfit he was wearing. And no. Izuku mummers out. Hearing his mummer, the trio look at him. Izuku, what's wrong? The man asks. Izuku doesn't acknowledge him as he continues to stare at the blonde. Kaken. Izuku could barely utter out. Who? The blonde asks. Izuku doesn't answer her. He just continues to stare at Kaken, who was able to turn his head to them and the crowd, and he gave an expression of plead and begging. That did it for Izuku, as all of the background noises surrounding him faded, and the only thing he heard was his own heartbeat. Suddenly, without any warning, he rushed out of the blonde woman's hold and runs straight through the crowd and toward the sludge villain. Kachan. Izuku shouts, continuing his run toward the villain. Izuku, wait. The trio yelled, but the boy didn't listen, continuing his charge toward the villain. Crap, he's going to get himself killed. The brunette yells. We have to morph. No, the man says, but that was a massive problem. But we can't do it here. It had drawn wanted attention onto us too soon. The blonde says. The man looks around and sees an alleyway just beside the crowd, one that they didn't notice was there. There, we can morph over there. But let's be quick about this. We don't want to draw anything attention to us. The man says. The women nod and they quickly head over to the. Izuku was nearing the villain, who noticed he was charging toward him and noticed just who he was. You, again. The villain shouts, turning himself and his captive toward Izuku this time. I'll kill you for sure. The villain yells, readying the hostage's quirk to fire at Izuku. Izuku saw this and prepared to take his backpack off. Page 25. Keep all damage to a minimum. Look for a weak spot and attack it. Izuku thought. He looks at the villain and noticed that his eyes were solid, unlike the rest of its body was. There, Izuku thought. He tosses his backpack at the villain, spilling the contents within onto the floor, but the speed of the toss and the density of the backpack were enough to hit the villain in his eyes and caused him to get hurt and get stunned. My eyes. The villain yells from the pain. This was enough for Izuku to reach to them and start digging his hands into the sludge villain's body. He took off a piece of the sludge away from the hostage's mouth, allowing him to breathe once more. The blonde boy gasps for air before turning to Izuku. What the hell are you doing here, Deku? The blonde boy yells at Izuku, who was busy trying to pry him out. I don't know. My legs started moving on their own and I started running before I could think. Izuku yells, but he thought of other reasons, that this was his fault, that he was just getting in the way of real heroes, that maybe just maybe he could just die like he wanted to and be free, but there was one lingering thought that stood out from the rest in his mind. He looks at the blonde boy as fresh tears started to fall from his eyes, and he gave the blonde a shaky smile. But it looked like you needed saving. Izuku says. The sludge villain recovers from the hit to his eyes just quick enough to see Izuku trying to free his new host. He quickly rewraps the blonde into itself, once again suffocating him. Just a little bit longer and this will all be over. The sludge says, forcefully lifting the blonde's arm up to Izuku as the palm was glowing as steam started to course from it. You should have just stayed away from this kid, but you had to go and play hero. Well, guess you can die like one. See ya. The villain yells, ready to blast Izuku to smithereens when Auto Blast, divided by Blade Blast. Insert music, Go Go Power Rangers. Two voices shouted with two streams of laser beams were fired at the villain from on top of one of the burning buildings, with each of the beams connecting to him and each causing a mini explosion upon impact. The villain backed away from Izuku when this happened and he and the blonde boy were yanked away by something and then were back at the crowd. Stay here. A voice spoke to Izuku but he saw no one there. Soon though, some of the smoke started to clear away and everyone saw two figures standing next to one another, holding something in each hand. Once the smoke had cleared away, they saw the two figures were actually women due to their body structure. Both were wearing full-body suits, one of which consisted of pink and white. The other's suit did have pink to it, but the main color of her suit was black with some armor on her left arm. Going from her hand till to the top of her shoulder, she also had a slightly worn-out and tattered cape. The two had helmets on with the helmets for different designs. Both of the helmets had black lenses, covering their eyes so no one could see who they were. The sludge villain recovers from the blasts and saw the two newcomers as they jump off the building and land in front of them. Who the hell are you two? The sludge villain asks. No one really. Just passing the area and saw this mess you were making. The pink and white woman says, placing her gun back into a holster that was on her. And we don't really appreciate the fact you were using someone as your puppet. The one that had the cape on says, she shifts her blaster back into a stick-like form and places it into a holster that was on her as well. Well, since you don't like how I was using someone else as my puppet, guess I'll just use you two instead. The sludge villain yells. They shot toward the two women to try and get them by surprise when the sludge suddenly got braided by hits from a mysterious force. The hits forced the villain back to where it was originally. That's not going to happen. A voice says as someone slowly appears in front of the women. This newcomer wore a full-body black suit with golden shoulder armor, gold diamond design on his arms and legs, a belt, and a black helmet that also had black lenses on to conceal the wearer's identity. He had a staff equipped. Who the hell are you? The villain yells. Someone you should have never run into. This black and gold-suited person says. You use children as shields and tools for your sick pleasure. How disgusting. The pink and white-suited woman says with disgust in her tone. I've known a lot of creeps most of my life, but you're the second most disgusting being I've had the displeasure of running into. The pink and black-suited woman says. Let's see how you like getting tossed around just someone your own size. Ready, guys? The black and gold-suited man asks with both of the women nodding. Yeah, the two yell. They all stood side by side as they equip and readied new weapons. Power bow. The pink and black-suited woman yells. She summons a bow that looked like it was modified due to it having blades as its lower and upper limbs. Turbo windfire. The pink and white-suited woman yells, summoning a bow of her own, but hers looked slightly futuristic as it had two barrels on the arrow rest. Brachiostaff. The black and gold-suited man yells, shifting his stance as the staff in his hand began to surge energy off from it while he swung the staff in a circle, forming an orb out of orange energy in front of him. Final. The tech. The trio yells, and the two women release their bowstrings, firing a barrage of pink arrows while the man slashes the orb, shooting it toward the villain. The barrage of arrows connects onto the sludge villain, causing it to scream in pain as the arrow made numerous holes into it before the orb hits the villain head-on, trapping it inside it momentarily before the orb faded away, and the villain screams again before imploding and scattering all over the floor, knocked out. Endost. Rangers, that was a mighty victory. The black and gold-suited man says. He spins his staff around as it shrinks in size before he places it back into the holster attached to his belt. The women nod with their respective bows disappearing into pink particles. Everyone was shocked and stunned at what they just witnessed as these three unknown people appeared out of nowhere and took care of the villain that was causing trouble of the heroes and had escaped all might of all people. Izuku looked at them in awe and interest. Never once has he seen heroes or anyone really with abilities like they just used. Who are these people? Are they heroes? New ones? If so, what are their quirks? The two women in pink used similar bows, maybe they're related. Izuku's mind was running with thought, trying to figure out just who are these people. One of the pros snapped out of it and approached the trio. Excuse me. The pro calls to the trio, and they turn to him. Yes, the pink and white-suited woman says. I ask, just who are you people? The pro hero asks. As my companion said to that guy, we were just in the area and we saw someone needing help and we saw that you weren't doing a thing about it. The pink and black suit wearer says. The pro looks at them as he realized something. So, you're not licensed heroes? The pro asks. If that's what you're asking. No, we're not. The pink and black suit wearer says. The pro looks at them and frowns. He looks back to his fellow heroes and saw the majority of them nod. He nods back at them before turning back to the trio. Then you're under arrest for illegal use of quirk usages, disturbing hero work, vigilantism, distribution of peace in a control state. The pro-hero says, pulling out handcuffs that look different from regular ones. This shocked the trio as they weren't expecting this. The man in the black and gold suit steps forward and holds his hands up. Look, we don't want to do this. Trust me, this isn't going to end well. The man says, but the pro-hero was not buying it. Stop moving and put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest, the pro says. His other fellow pros were slowly advancing toward the trio, which they noticed. The man in black looks at his two companions and saw them nod. He nods back and turns back to the pro in front of them. Fine, you asked for it, the man says as he fades away from vision. One of the pink suit wearers pulls out a small orb and tosses it to the ground. Once it hit the ground, a bright flash went off in the area, blinding everyone there. A few moments passed and the flash faded away. The heroes opened their eyes once more, but to their shock, the three were nowhere to be seen. What they go? The pro asked, seeing none of the suit bearers. As all the pros searched for the suit wearers, someone from the yelled something. Hey, that green-haired kid is missing. The pros turned and saw that Izuku was missing, along with his stuff as well. Where'd that kid go? One of the pro asks. The pro that tried to arrest the trio looks at the, hey kid, do you know who that kid was? The one that tried to save you. The pro asks. The blonde growls silently at the remainder of Izuku trying to save him. Yeah, I know who he is. The blonde says. Do you know where he lives? The pro asks with the blonde looking at him. Why bother with him? He's not worth it. Trust me, I've known that creep for years. The blonde says, getting back to his feet and dusting himself off from the sludge and dirt that was on him. Kid, this is important. He broke the law today and we need to find him. So, I'll ask again, do you know where he lives? The pro says. Fine, I'll tell you. The blonde says. In another location. Not that far away, Izuku was seen on top of another building, shaking his head in an attempt to clear away the dizziness he was experiencing. Once he had cleared the dizziness away, he looks up and sees the three suit wearers standing in front of him. The black and gold suit wearer had his backpack while the pink and black suited woman had her hands on her hips, tapping her foot onto the floor. What were you thinking? Running toward the danger, putting yourself at risk of getting captured by that sludge thing. I hope you have a good explanation. The pink and black suit wearing woman says, her tone filled with anger and concern. The man in black and gold places his hand on her shoulder. Calm down, Kim, I'm sure that this kid wasn't trying to get caught or anything. The man says, but the woman turns to him. Tommy, we came here to help him, but already we've had to stop him from getting hurt twice in less than an hour. The woman. Yes, but I have something in mind that I want to ask the kid. Can you let me? The man asks. The woman looks at him before letting out a sigh. Fine. The woman says, turning away from the man. The man nods before turning back to Izuku and crouching down to his level. Kid, can I ask you something? When you ran to that sludge bad guy, did you do it, or did your body move on its own? The man asks. Izuku thinks on his question a bit before looking up at the man. Why yeah, my body moved on its own. Before I even realized it. Izuku answers. The man looks at Izuku for a bit. Izuku couldn't see his eyes, due to the black lenses on the helmet covering them, but the man just shakes his head, lets out a chuckle, and stands up. Well, that answers it. This kid, something else. He's like we are. Act first, think later. You don't find that many people. The man says. I agree, you don't find that so often. The woman in the pink and white suit says. Izuku slowly gets up from the floor and looks at them. Who are you all? Izuku asks as all three turns back to him. You really want to know? The man asks. Izuku slowly nods as the three stood side by side, and with a slight flash, their suit disappears into light particles and stood in front of Izuku was. Iaiatsu 3. Izuku stutters, utter shock to see the three people who saved him from the rooftop earlier were the ones who saved him and the blonde. My name is Dr. Tommy Oliver. This is my wife, Catherine Hillard Oliver. The man, now known to be as Tommy, points to the blonde who smiles at Izuku and waves to him. Greetings, Izuku. The blonde, known to be Catherine, greets. And this is Kimberly Hart, and old friend of mine. Tommy says, pointing to the brunette as she just nods and gives Izuku a two-finger salute. But you can call me Kim. The brunette, now known to be Kim, says. And we're here from different dimensions and timelines, who've traveled all this way to meet you. Tommy explains. Izuku was confused about why they were here when they were from different timelines, dimensions, just to see him. Wait, the multiverse theory is real? Izuku asks. Kim nods. Yep, pretty much. We really don't want to get into it since it'll take too long just to explain the basics on it. Kim says. So why are you here? Izuku asks. What is your dream? Tommy asks. Insert Ost, his theme from Undertale. Izuku was about to automatically answer the question to be like All Might when he stopped himself and thought about it. Why did he want to be a hero? To be like All Might, someone who told him to just give up and be more realistic. No, he wanted to be a hero one that. Someone that defends those who can't defend themselves. Someone who doesn't ask for anything in return. Someone who looks at the danger and evil in the eyes and doesn't back down. I want to be someone who saves people in their darkest hours. That's my dream. Izuku says. Sensing the honesty in his answer, the trio smiled as they now knew what the Morphin Masters and the grid saw in this child. Well, I can say this for sure. I believe you're already a hero. Tommy says. Izuku's eyes widen. Izuku couldn't believe someone actually believed that he was a hero. His heart couldn't take it, his knee buckled and he falls down to them as fresh tears began to swell from the corners of his eyes and soon starts to openly cry. The winds blow by as Tommy, Kim and Catherine watched the boy cry his heart out, not knowing that he was waiting to hear those words for years. Watching this boy that they'll teach, train, and see grow as he will take his place as a Power Ranger. We return to where we left our heroes as Izuku was still crying his heart out. He had finally heard the words he had been waiting to hear since that unfaithful day 10 years ago at the doctor's office. And he heard them from 3 people who came across the multiverse just to tell him those words, that he too could be a hero. Izuku, are you okay? Kat asks. Izuku regains control of his emotions and starts wrapping his eyes and nose. Why yeah, I'm fine. It's just ... you have no idea how long I've waited to hear those words. Izuku says as his sobs were subsiding. I can only imagine how long you must have waited to hear that. Tommy says. Izuku couldn't help but look down to the floor and slowly nod at his words. Why yeah, Izuku says. Before anyone could say anything, a noise began to come from Izuku's backpack, which Kim was holding. Curious about what was causing the noise, Izuku gets up from the floor and headed over to Kim to his bag. He opens it to see his phone was vibrating. Oh, my phone. I wonder who it is, Izuku says. He takes the phone from the bag and looks at the caller ID, which caused him to go white, and his eyes widen. Oh no. He screams, causing the 3 adults to flinch and see him run away in a panicked frenzy. What's wrong? Kim asks. Izuku stops his frantic running and turns to them, and shows them the screen of his phone. The 3 adults look and saw that there were over 50 missed calls and over 100 text messages from Mama. It's my mom, she's been calling and texting me for the past 10 minutes. Oh, she must be worried, Izuku says. That sounds like Kat, me when JJ was first born. Tommy and Kat thought as a sweat drop appears at the side of their heads. That sounds like one protective mom, Kim thought. Izuku goes back to his phone and sends a text to his mom, telling her that he's on his way home. Once it was sent, he lets out a sigh with that task done, but he knew. I have to get home, but ... how am I going to explain what happened today at her? Izuku asks as he looks up at the orange and purple sky. He was already dreading this. He loves his mom since she's the best, but sometimes she could be a bit over the top in regard to his well-being. Tommy looks at him before turning to his companions, and they look at him as they nod before they look at Izuku. We can go with you and help you out in explaining things to your mom, Kat says. Izuku utters. He turns to them. Why you do that? He asks as they nod. Yes, remember, we're here because for you, and if it'll make things if we come with you and explain everything to her, and yourself, then we'll come along. Tommy, yep, it's all or nothing, Kim says. Oh okay then, let's go. Izuku says. He grabs his bag from Kim and places it on his back, and then leads the trio to his home. Unbeknownst to any of them, they had just left as another man had arrived, looking for one for them. Izuku Midoriya was many things. Divorced devoted mother to one, currently single, kind-hearted, not easy to anger, and a badass lawyer, one that even the pros were afraid of. But there were 2 things that she was most known for. Overly worried and emotional. She had just seen the news going over a villain attack involving a sludge villain taking a hostage to one middle school student, and using their quirk to cause a fire to break out and wreak havoc and causing problems for the pro heroes there. While she was worried about the attack itself, what really got her was an image shown in the news of Izuku running toward the villain who was reported to have attempted to pry the hostage out, which she later learned was the son of her best friend. She didn't know what happened next, only that a group of vigilantes appeared and stopped the villain and had taken her son after they defeated the villain, but before the pro heroes could arrest them. A search of those vigilantes and her son was currently underway. Izuku, where are you? Izuku thought, now fearing the worst. Just as she was thinking of the worst, the sound of the front door to the apartment opening was heard and I'm home. A voice rang from the front door, one Izuku knew from the bottom of her heart. She shoots from the couch and rushes toward the front door and sees her baby boy at it, taking off his sneakers. Izuku. Izuku yells. She rushes toward the boy, who got startled by her yell as she wraps her arms around his waist and cries out, a shower of tears from her eyes. She looks up at him and starts scanning him for anything wrong. My baby. I saw the news about the attack with that sludger villain and it holding Katsuki hostage earlier, and I saw a photo of you running toward it. I was worried sick. Are you hurt? Is everything okay? Your clothes are burnt and dirty. Why are your eyes red and puffy? Were you crying? She asks, seeing that his clothes were out of place and some minor burns on them. His eyes were red and tear-stained and he looked a bit exhausted. Izuku sheepishly chuckles and rubs the back of his neck. I am fine and now, Mom. There's nothing to worry, really, Izuku says. Izuku lets out a sigh of relief before giving him another hug. Oh, thank goodness. I was so worried about you, Izuku says. Why yeah, but it's thanks to them that I am fine. Izuku says, causing Inko to look up at his face with a confused expression. Huh, she utters. Ahem. A cough was heard by the door and Inko looks behind Izuku and sees 3 people, 1 man and 2 women who look to be her age, standing there with their shoes off. The man steps forward. Hello ma'am. It's nice to meet the mother of this kind boy. The man says, hello. Inko says, not knowing what to make of this. Sorry if this sounds a bit rude, but who are you? She asks, not knowing if these 3 strangers were good or bad, seeing as they were in her house. The man sees her expression and knew what she was thinking. That's quite alright and sorry if we're intruding. Let me introduce ourselves. My name is Thomas Jason Oliver, but you can call me Tommy. Tommy introduces himself. He turns to his companions. This is Catherine Oliver, my wife. And this is our friend, Kimberly Hart, but you can call her Kim. He says as the 2 women look at Inko. It is pleasure to meet you. Hello there ma'am. Both Kat and Kim greet her. It's nice to meet you all too. Inko says before she turns to Izuku. Izuku, sweetie, how do you know these 3? She asks. Izuku rubs his neck as he gains a rather nervous expression. Well, Izuku says he was trying to find a way to tell his mom of what had happened today. Fortunately, Tommy had come to his rescue. I think it'd be best if we went inside and discussed some things, Tommy says. Inko, however, looks unsure. I don't know. Inko says she really didn't think to let 3 strangers, who she thinks were foreigners, into her house. Izuku looks at her with an ensuring look. Mom, it's okay. You can trust them. Please, Izuku says. Inko looks at him before turning to the 3 and stares at them for a little while before turning back to her son and sighing. All right, if you say so, then I'll trust them and hear them out. For now, at least, Inko says. Izuku and the 3 smile. Thank you. We won't cause you any trouble, Tommy says. Inko lets go of her son and lead the trio into the apartment and to the living room and let them sit down by the dinner table on one side while she and Izuku sat on the dinner chairs across from them. So, what is it that you want to talk about? Inko asks. Tommy and his companions look at one another and nod before turning back to Inko and Izuku as they gain a serious look. Ma'am, what if we were to tell you that we're not from here? Tommy asks, causing Inko to raise her eyebrow. As in you're not from Japan? Inko asks, knowing that they were foreigners but she didn't expect them to shake their heads. No, Mrs. Midoriya. What I mean is that we're not from this universe or timeline. Kim says. What are you talking about? Inko asks, confused. Ma'am, we're from different universes, timelines in the multiverse. Kat says. What are you talking about? Different universe. Timeline. What? Inko asks, her confusion increased. Ma'am, the theory on the multiverse is real and as stated, there are numerous amounts of Earths, all either similar or different from this one. And the ones we're from are completely different from this one. Yes, we come from worlds where there have been dangerous forces that had come and tried to take over our planets. But the difference is that most of the population doesn't have a quirk of their own. They were normal citizens. But there were those who were the exception. The Power Rangers, Tommy says, gaining Inko and Izuku's attention. Power Rangers. Both Izuku and Inko say, curious about what that name meant. Power Rangers are a group of different individuals who were chosen to be the defeaters of the people of Earth, the defeaters of life itself from the forms of evil. Kim says with Kat nodding along and continuing the explanation. That's right, so far there are at least 22 known teams of Power Rangers spreading across the multiverse. Most of those teams are currently based in Tommy and mine universe while the rest are based in branched universes, just like your universe is branched. Kat says. Each of these teams was formed to combat their time or world's villains from either taking over the world, destroying it, or protecting the universe, timeline. Tommy says. How many are in a team? Izuku asks. The minimum of Rangers there are in one team is usually 5 with gaining a 6th member along the journey. There have been teams where it was just 3 in the beginning but their numbers grew over time. The team has the most members in one team 10 members. Each member of the team was granted extraordinary abilities and superhuman feats such as superhuman strength, speed, durability, heightened senses, and other unique abilities which are based on the team's theme. Tommy says, the 2 greenlets caught something he mentioned. Theme. Both Midoriya utter, curious about this theme the trio was talking about. Yes, each Ranger team has a sort of theme to them that correlate to their outfits, powers, and weapons. The most known theme that Power Rangers have been based on are dinosaurs or most notably based on the Cenozoic era. Then there are the other known themes such as vehicle-themed teams, ninjas, samurai, jungle, police, time travelers, enforcers, and other themes. Tommy says, I see. The Midoriya duo say, nodding as they digest the information. As we mentioned earlier, these teams were chosen and are granted their abilities by a cosmic multiversal energy field called the Morphin grid. Kim says, piquing Inko's intrigue. The Morphin grid. Inko asks. It is the source of all Power Rangers and their powers. It grants us the ability to morph into Rangers. Kat says. Morph. Izuku asks. Yes, morph. Like the name says, we morph or transform into our Ranger forms with the use of our morphers. Tommy says, he and Kim reach toward their backs and pull out a device that had a golden coin in them. Kim's device was slightly worn out with scratches and dents, but it was fine, while Tommy's was golden in color. Kat's pink bracelet lets out a flash of pink and it changes into a device on her wrist. Izuku looks at the devices and starts piecing together the rest. So, you guys used these devices and changed into those outfits you were wearing earlier when you rescued me and Ka. Bakugo, those were your ranger forms? Izuku asks, and Ko noticed his pause at the mention of Bakugo, which confuses her. Now you're starting to get it, Greenie. Yep, these were our ranger forms. I'm my universe's mighty Morphin Pink Ranger, and I was something else formerly, but I won't go into that. Kim says. She turns away from the Midoriyas and looks at the window, having an expression of sorrow over something. I was chosen to be the Kimberly Heart in my world, to be the Pin Ranger, and from there, I was also the Zeo Ranger, I Pink, or just the Zeo Pink Ranger, and finally, the Pink Turbo Ranger. Kat says. And for me, I was originally the Green Ranger of the originally mighty Morphin Rangers, but I lost that power since it was a temporary power. But I later became the White Ranger. After that, I became the Zeo Ranger V-Red or Zeo Red Ranger, and then the Red Turbo Ranger. And finally, I became the Black Dino Ranger. Tommy says. Okay, this information is nice and all, but what does this have to do with us? Inko asks, not seeing how this was important to her. Kim looks away from the window and faces them again. Because ma'am, as we said, most of the Earths in the multiverse have a Ranger team based there. Yours, unfortunately, doesn't. And with that, your planet is in grave danger. Kim says, gaining Inko's attention. What do you mean? Inko asks. Ma'am, your planet is in grave danger because of something that happened a few years ago to me. Nearly 30 years ago for Tommy and Kat, but for you and your planet, this event happened over 200 years ago. And thanks to that incident, it has placed your planet and its population on the verge of destruction and death. Kim says, shocking the two Midoriyas. Their planet was on the verge of destruction. Yes, and the only thing that can prevent this from happening is a Power Ranger, which is why we were chosen by the grid and sent here to train this Ranger from this Earth. And that, Tommy says before facing Izuku, is you, Izuku. He says, causing the boy to get shocked at the reveal. Me. Izuku stammers, trying to take this new information in. Yes, you. We did say that we came here for you because you're now this Earth's current and only Ranger. Kat says. Izuku was processing this news. He was chosen to be the newest Ranger. How? What? Why him? Why me? Why me out of everyone else on the planet? Izuku asks. Inko wanted to know too. Because the Morphin grid had seen your life and the hardships you were dealt with throughout your life, and despite all that, you really never gave up. Kim says, but she had one thought over something else, that was until you finally broke today, kid. She thought, remembering how close Izuku was to end his life by his own hands. Inko thought about what the three had said and what her son was chosen to be. This newest Ranger, the protector of Earth and its life. This was too much for her. No, Inko whispers, and she starts to shake her head. Izuku heard her whisper and turns to her. Mom. Izuku says, and Ko continues to shake her head, in denial of this as she looks at the trio. No, I don't want this. I don't want Izuku to be a Power Ranger. Inko says, stunning Izuku as he was utterly shocked by her words. The others were feeling the same, but they quickly shook the shock off. Mrs. Midoriya, I know that this is a lot to take in. But I need you to understand that, Tommy says, trying to reason with Inko on this, but what he said angers Inko as she looks at him with a fierce glare, and stands up. No, I do understand. I understand that some Miss Hiranu Geikoku Hito came into my house, trying to trick me into thinking that my son, my baby boy, is some chosen one to save this world from some so-called danger. Stop this, or I'll call the police and have you all out of my house. Inko yells. This really gets Izuku off guard as he stands up next to her. Mom, don't. Izuku yells, trying to reason with his mom over this, but she doesn't budge. I'm sorry, Izuku, but I forbid you from doing this. This isn't meant for you. This isn't your battle to fight. I'm sorry, but this is for your own good. Inko says. She lifts her hand up, and suddenly, the house phone that was stationed on the kitchen counter started to float over there and toward Inko's open hand. Once it had reached her hand, she was about to dial the police when Tommy, Kat, and Kim stood up. Ma'am, be reasonable here. Do you really want to be selfish and endanger your entire planet by trying to forbid your son from his destiny? Tommy asks. If it means protecting my son from danger, then yes, I'll be selfish. I'll be the most selfish person for my only family. Inko says as she starts to dial the number for the cops. Just when she was about to press the call button, Izuku snatches the phone from her and holds it above her. Mom, don't do this. Izuku says. Inko turns to him and tries to reach for the phone, but due to the height, Izuku, give me the phone now. Inko says. She continues to reach for and grab the phone, but Izuku refused. No. Izuku yells, surprising Inko as he had never raised his voice at her before, but she was determined. Izuku, the phone. Hand it over. Now. Inko yells. No. Izuku shouts. These people are just going to hurt you. Do you really think they're telling the truth? Inko asks, trying to get to the phone. Izuku finally lost his temper and throws the phone at the wall, smashing it into pieces as turns to his mom. I trust them because they saved me from killing myself today. Izuku shouts, causing Inko to stop and freeze as she heard what he said. Insert Ost, sadness and sorrow from Naruto Shippuden. What? Inko stammers, hoping that she misheard that. They saved me just when I was about to take a leap of faith from a effing skyscraper in the city earlier, just after All Might told me that I couldn't be a hero because I'm effing quirkless. Today, I had the worst day of my life. School was hell. It always has been hell for me for the past 10 years. I've been bullied by everyone, including some of the teachers. For today, my homeroom teacher outed me by revealing to everyone in my class that I was applying to UA for high school, and everyone laughed at me for it, but Bakugo didn't, since he got pissed and blew up. Literally. He came and nearly blew me up, but blew up my desk. He didn't get in trouble for it, but he blamed me and punished me. And when school ends and when I was about to leave, Bakugo and his cunts of friends corner me and threaten me to not apply to UA, since he wants to be the only one to be enrolled in the school from that hellhole. I said no, and he blows up my notebook, the one I've been busy with since spring break. And this wasn't the first thing he blew something of mine. Izuku yells as he pulls the notebook out from his uniform and shows his mom how burnt and waterlogged it was. He then threatened me one last time to not apply by putting his hand on my shoulder and using his quirk on me to intimidate me. And that's not even the best part of him, no. Just before he left, he turned back to me, and guess what he said to me? He said, and these were his words, not mine, "If you really want a quirk, take a swan dive off the roof and pray you'll get a quirk in the next life." He yells, shocking Inko and the other three since they weren't aware of this. Inko starts to shake. After that, my day just kept getting worse by the minute. Thanks to that villain attack at Tachin Station, the roads were closed and I had to take a different route. But that turned out to be a bad idea since I got jumped and attacked by the sludge villain, the same one from the news. Just as I was about to pass out since it was choking me, out comes the number one hero, All Might, and he saves me from the villain and he beats me as usual. But just before he left, and in my desperation, I jumped onto his leg before he took off in the air, and made him land on a roof of a skyscraper. He was about to leave me there, but I asked him a question, something that been on my mind all these years. Izuku says, what did he say? Inko asks, as Izuku just looks down and clenches his fists to the point that his knuckles were turning white. I asked him if someone could be a hero even if they were quirkless, but no. Instead he says that he doesn't think that quirkless people can be heroes and that I should start dreaming something that's realistic. Izuku says. This shocks the adults in the room even further at how reckless the number one hero was in leaving a distorted boy on a roof where he could have hurt himself. The Ranger trio clenched their fists. This made more sense on why Izuku was so out of it and wanted to kill himself earlier. That son of a, divided by that idiot, divided by that no good. The three thought, cursing All Might for this. Inko on the other hand started to have tears fall from her eyes as she was hearing and seeing the side of her son she's never seen or known. Izuku. Inko stutters. She tries to place her hand on Izuku, but the boy, in a fit of rage, just smacks her hand away. After that, he just left me there on that roof and and I was so over this. Over life. Over getting beaten up. Burned. Punched. Laughed at. Ridiculed. Over myself. Over everything. I hate it, Mom. I hate my life. Izuku yells as taking off his and rolls up his sleeves to reveal starburst scars, burn marks, and cuts on his arms. Most notably, there was one fresh visible handprint burn mark on his lower forearm by his elbow joint. I'm so done with my life, Mom. I hate it. I hate being treated differently. I hate being discriminated against by others who I thought could be my friends. I hate that I'm the butt of most jokes and that gets tormented by everyone around me. Even my number one hero, the person whom I've looked up to for years, said I can't be a hero. If he thinks that, then what's the point? What's the point in living if I can't ever be treated like a normal person? I'm normal too. I'm just a kid. A effing kid. And I want to be like one. Is that hard to ask? Izuku yells again, but this time falls to his knees and starts punching the floor. The first few made his knuckles get hurt, but after that, he busted them open, causing blood to start lacking from the wounds as he continues to punch. The others just watch as he continues to punch the hard floor and injure himself in the process before he stops and grabs his hair and starts to laugh. It wasn't a ha-ha kind of laugh, no. It was a dry, lifeless laugh as tears begin to form in his eyes while Izuku turns his head to his mom, staring at her as his eyes were deprived of light. All I ever wanted to be a normal kid, just a kid that wants to live life, one that can dream big without getting ridiculed for it, is that so much to ask for? Izuku asks as a sole tear falls from his eyes and down his cheek as he continues to laugh until he couldn't laugh anymore and just broke up, crying once again. Tommy held his head down, allowing his bangs to shadow his eyes as he was clenching his fists in anger and sadness. Sad for this boy, this child who had been put through a hell no child should ever endure. Kat was openly crying, holding her hands by her mouth, not able to feel anything but pity for Izuku. Kim just turns her head away, but if you were to look closer, a tear had fallen from her eyes. She couldn't help but see herself in Izuku. The older when Lord Draken attacked the old HQ and killed her and her friends while killing one of them and took another one away, and did sick things to him. Inko was seeing how her baby was, and she couldn't help but think back to the days when Izuku returned home, all beat up, burned, and depressed. And every time he came, he had a smile and said he was alright, and she believed him. She should have learned more from him, asked more, pushed but she did, and thought that every time was alright she had failed him. Again. I, Izuku. Inko stutters, barely able to even say anything as her knees were buckling, but she holds on to rush toward Izuku and hug him in a tight and distorted hold. I quote, "I'm so sorry," she shouts. Her shout and her hugging him snaps Izuku out of it as he looks down at her. Mom. Izuku says. She just holds onto him tighter. I'm sorry, my baby. I'm so sorry that I failed you again." Inko yells, confusing Izuku. What do you mean? Izuku asks. I didn't believe you. I didn't believe that you could be a hero when you asked me that day. I didn't see that you were in so much pain and suffering from everyone and me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for not seeing it early. I'm sorry for letting you down. Inko cries out. No, it was my fault for hiding the truth from you. Izuku says. But I should have noticed more. I should have seen the signs. The signs that you weren't okay at all. What kind of mother? No, what kind of person doesn't see when someone is hurting in front of them and doesn't do anything about it? Or even ask if they're alright? How can I call myself your mother from this? Inko yells, crying even more. Mom. Izuku was saying, but Inko cuts him off. No, don't call me that. I'm not worthy of that title. Not after what I've done. Inko yells. She turns away from him as she thought that she didn't deserve to look at him. Izuku just places his bloody hand on her cheek and makes her turn to face and let her see his teary eyes. No, Mom, you are worthy of being my mom. You were the one that greeted me when I got home. You read to me when I was about to sleep, taught me many things, and took care of me. You were my light at the end of the day. And I was just selfish when I was trying to kill myself. I didn't think what would happen to you if I did it. I would have left you. That man left us after that day, and you have no one else. Mom, I'm sorry for being a bad kid to you. I'm sorry for lying to you. And being selfish. Izuku says, looking down, feeling ashamed for his actions and the words he said. Inko just looks at him as it was her turn to lift Izuku's face up and have him look at her. Izuku, you don't have to apologize. I'm the one who should be apologizing to you. I failed you. For many years, I should have seen how you were. I love you, Mom. And, I'm sorry, Izuku says. Inko just hugs him once more. I love you too, sweetie. And I'm also sorry. For everything, Inko says. Izuku slowly lifts his arms and wraps them around his mother, ignoring the pain and blood that was dripping from his hands as he just holds onto her tightly. And the tears fall once more from both of them. The three newcomers in the room watched as mother and child reconciled and expressed bottled-up emotions to one another as a way to build up a new road in their relationship was sweet. Tommy and Ket were smiling, and they couldn't help but think of their son and how he was doing as the Green Ranger of the SPD. Kim was watching this scene play out, and couldn't help but think and wonder if she could have the same thing, be a parent of herself. Eventually, the two Midoriyas break away from their hug and wipe their respective eyes for the remaining tears, having decided that the crying was enough, and that more pressing matters needed to be addressed. Fixing herself up, Inko stands up and turns to the three rangers. And insert Ost, from me to you from Boku no Hero Academia Ost. I'd like to apologize for what I said to you three earlier. I overreacted and said things that I didn't really mean. You three saved my son and brought him back to me. I am forever grateful and in your debt. Inko says as she bows to them. Tommy stands up and goes to the bowing woman and places his hand on her shoulder, making her look up and see he was staring at her. Ma'am, from one parent to another, I can say that I fully understand where you were coming from. I would have done the same if my son was involved in this or experienced such things as Izuku has. I would have done far worse things to the ones responsible. You were just doing the best you could do in your abilities. Tommy says, as Inko somberly nods. I know. But it wasn't enough. My son was still suffering from this and I was ignorant to pay attention to it. Even if he was hiding it from me, I should have been more aware of things and known something was wrong. Inko says, still feeling ashamed of herself for not seeing. Kat and Kim get up and move over to the two and crouch down. That's right, but there's nothing you can do to change the past. What happened then happened and let's just leave it at that. But what you can do now is to learn from the past, to not repeat the same mistakes and learn to be a better person from them, to be a better parent to your son. Kat says as Kim nods. That's right. You can't always be observant to everyone and everything. Eventually, we have to take breaks. We're humans and we're bound to make mistakes along the way, but what matters is that we learn from them. Just like Kat just said. Kim says. Inko thought about their words and found them to be true. She could learn from her mistakes and be better, for herself and for Izuku. You're right, Inko says. She decides to rectify one mistake she made 10 years ago. She turns to Izuku, looking serious. Izuku, dear, do you still want to be a hero? Inko asks. Immediately did Izuku stand up and look at her with an expression of determination. More than anything, Mom. It's not my dream, it's who I am. Izuku says. With that being said, Inko now had her decision. Then you have my approval and support. I should have said this to you on that day. You can be a hero. You can be my hero, Inko says. Izuku's eyes widen at this. He wasn't expecting her to say it now, and to remember that day. His eyes get teary as he gives his mom a wobbly smile and goes over to her and hugs her once more. Thank you, Mom. Izuku says. Inko just smiles and recuperates the hug. Just promise me one thing, sweetie, Inko says, making Izuku look down at her. What? Izuku asks as Inko looks into his eyes. Please be safe and don't get too hurt, Inko says. Izuku could see that she meant the words and nods. I promise, Mom, Izuku says. Inko just hugs him tighter. Thank you, Inko says. She turns to the three rangers. Please take care of my son. He's all I have left, she says, and the three nods. We promise, ma'am, Tommy says. After a little bit, Inko speaks again. Call me Inko, Inko says. The three saw this as the first point of trust and nod. And asked, knock, knock, knock. Suddenly, a knock was heard on the door, altering everyone in the room. Are you expecting anyone? Kim asks as Inko just shakes her head. No, I'm not, Inko says, having a confused expression. Then, Tommy was saying, but, hello, this is the Musutafu Police Department. We'd like to have a word with you, Mrs. Midoriya. A voice spoke from the door, altering the rangers and Izuku. Prep. How did they know where Izuku? The kid live, the three rangers thought, as they were shocked. Did someone say ... Did Bakugo tell them? Izuku thought he knew someone had to have told them where he lived, and seeing just how fast they got here, only one person would fit that, and it was Bakugo. Looks like things are about to take a turn. But for what?